and said, hold this.
That's amazing. Definitely. Time to go?
Yeah, time to go. Good evening. My name is Patrick Raftery. I'm chairman of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'd like to call the meeting for 25th of April to order. The first order of business is to approve the minutes that have been previously published for our last meeting on the 24th of January. May I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from January 24th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. The next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard on items that are not presently on the agenda. I have given out copies of the agenda, and there are copies here at the end table to let you know what items are on the agenda. But if you care to speak on an item that you know is not on the agenda, would ask you to fill out a comment card. You can do that after you speak. Come to the podium, state your name, and please restrict your comments to 3 minutes. Does anybody from the public wish to speak to an item presently that is not on the current agenda?
Does that include just asking a question?
I would think so.
I would. I'll ask a question.
Pardon me?
I'll ask a question.
Would you like to come to the podium and state your name and ask the question? And
No, sure. Suppose there's a microphone somewhere around here.
Yes.
we can hear you.
My name's Steve Harris. I live on Mandalay Avenue, Clearwater Beach. And the question is simply, I'm an active tennis player, and I know I have a lot of friends who are an active tennis player, as well as a lot of pickleball players. And you're probably aware that we have a backup of facilities over there. And I'm here just to find out if there's any plan to do anything about that. If part of this plan that I see mentioned in this, addresses that at all. That's it.
It might very well come up as we discuss the forward planning for Parks and Recreation as to a comment from the Director of Parks and Recreation. Or,
We can.
Yeah.
Can I answer that or not? Okay. Yes, there are plans to, we know there is an issue. By the way, I'm Art Cater, Interim Parks and Recreation Director.
Okay.
There are plans to put in new pickleball courts at the McKay playfield.
Once the fire department leaves, I guess.
We're not sure how many, 4 or 6, some people have wanted us to put in 8, but again, it all has to do with the resources and money. But that way it'll free up the tennis courts for the tennis players. And then that way the pickleball players will have their own courts as well. And that will hopefully take care of a lot of the confusion and problems we're having right now. And also the basketball player will be able to play on the basketball
Exactly.
courts.
Yeah, I'm here representing both even though I don't play pickleball, I have good friends who are pickleball players, and I know that they wait like a long time to get
We understand the problem out there, and we are addressing it, and this board has supported that, so we're moving forward with it.
Thank you.
Okay. The fire station has to be built first, though.
No, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
I have a comment. I don't think it's on the agenda.
Come on up.
Is it time for it?
Right here?
Yep. State your name, please, for us. And
Michael Phillips. Largo Park has a motto, take only pictures and leave only footprints. I would request that Clearwater take up that motto and restrict all fishing to its public parks. And people want to fish, it's a short distance to the bay. Lots more fish, big fish. They don't have to be in the small freshwater lakes of our public parks, where many turtles are getting fish hooks stuck in their mouth, some are ingesting them. That's a problem because there's not too many fish in our public parks, but a lot of turtles. And they thought of that, the turtles come in, a lot of them are getting the fish hooks. And they don't like that. The people don't like those turtles interfering with their fishing. And last week, somebody got a hook on the turtle's front leg, hoisted it up, took it down on the beach, on the shoreline, set it down. He's aggravated. He picked up a big rock, threw it on top of the cooler. The cooler turtle's this big. Threw it on top of the shell, put a hole in the top of the shell. The shell went down and paralyzed the turtle's back legs. Then he turned the turtle upside down and put a big rock on top of it and went back to his fishing. This happened a couple hours before I arrived, but I was picking up trash along the shoreline and I came upon what he had left behind. Evidence clearly told me exactly what I told you. Nothing else could have done that to that turtle except the fisherman. Also, the ospreys, I think they eat freshwater fish. There's not many fish in those public parks to begin with. You're taking fish out, those osprey have less fish. And I don't see many ospreys these days. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I was a bit remiss before we started as well, and then I wanted to introduce the members of the advisory board, so let me take care of doing that at the present time. To my far left is Martin Armstrong. Next is Kelly Kelly, Mark Rodriguez, and Lisa Tuttle. Art Cater is the interim director of Parks and Recreation who joins us for these meetings as well. If there's no more citizens to be heard on items that are not on the agenda, we'll move on to the next item of business. This is a new business item that we will discuss. It's on the agenda, but at the end of this, any public comment that wants to be made by anyone, they can approach the podium and make comment to one of these items. The first one is an item that I submitted to discuss the impact fees proposed for Parks and Recreation. These are two ordinances that came out of Parks and Recreation that were proposed by the Parks and Recreation Department and approved unanimously by the Clearwater City Council last Thursday. It is a significant impact on the fees that will be available to Parks and Recreation, and for that reason, for the education of myself, board members, and the public, I thought it would be good if the director could address the significant impacts of these ordinances that were passed.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do so. The item that we passed, there were two items. One had to be, were companion items. One was for the comprehensive plan that we have to change because the ordinance that we did change, which was basically replacing Chapter 54 of the Community Development Code. That is the code whereby we currently have our impact fee ordinance, okay, that we are enforcing around the city. What we're doing is we're replacing that in its entirety. The primary reason is that this chapter has not been substantially changed since 1983. Secondly, the Florida Impact Fee Act requires that the impact fees be based on current standards or current data that you have. Obviously, 40 years is not real current, so that's why that's important. The city hired the firm of Tyndall Oliver, now Benich, out of Tampa, Florida, to gather data and the recent data of where we were. They did that last year, and so this ordinance, the new ordinance, is based on their findings, and they're the basis of the report. As we discussed at the work session, the current Chapter 54 has served the citizens of Clearwater well. I shared with them that the current ordinance we've collected over $17.5 million for the city of Clearwater. Of that, almost $14 million was used to purchase land and parks in the city of Clearwater. The other remaining amount was used to purchase facilities that were needed. But that ordinance has kind of run its course. It's time to make a change, and that's why we proposed the new ordinance, and that's why the council approved it on first reading. The proposed ordinance is focused on new residential development. In other words, there's a standard that we have currently, right now today, and what the ordinance basically says, if we're trying to capture any new residents that come in and put to degrade the current system that we have. For example, we may have so many tennis courts, 20 tennis courts, or right now we have about 45, I think. And let's just say you have an additional 5,000 or 6,000 more residents come, that means they impact those tennis courts. So we may need some more tennis courts. The current residents shouldn't have to pay for that. So the impact fees basically go to pay for new facilities that these residents are going to be using in the city when they're here. And that way, you still have, as residents currently, the use of your facilities without having to downgrade them, okay? Otherwise, we're going to end up in the same situation as we did with pickleball courts, not having enough. We weren't ahead on that one when we should have been. Now, the proposed ordinance is, while I said is focused on residential development, it replaces 3 fees. Right now, there are 3 fees that we have to look at, and those 3 fees are very complex and complicated formulas of how you figure them out. It's a recreation facility land fee, an open space fee, and a recreation facility fee. And what this ordinance does, it goes to 1 fee. That 1 fee is charged to what a residential unit, okay? Matter of fact, I will do this for you so that you'll be able to see it. Let me share with you, I think we have that here, to show with you just a sample of what the fee might be for a new resident. You come into the city of Clearwater, and let's just say you're building a new single-family home, and it's less than 1,500 square feet. You can see the cost there. It's $3,021. That's the impact. And you can see if you're having a mobile home, it's $1,847. If you have multifamily, that's a duplex or triplex, it's $2,024. But we also have in here the affordable multifamily. That's a reduction. We're trying to encourage, the multifamily homes, that basically affordable homes in the city of Clearwater. We actually have a deduction for just a single-family affordable home. There is no fee that is being charged for that. So that's just a sample of what basically this will replace 3 fees that we have to basically put on all residents right now. It allows funds to be used anywhere in the city, and it provides incentives for affordable housing, as I said. The Community Redevelopment Agency, that's downtown area where we are now, has been exempt for 40 years from this fee. We are taking that out of this, and the new ordinance, they will be required to pay an impact fee. The impact fees can be paid at certificate of occupancy, and there are exemptions and credits that are provided. We also have the Planning and Development Board. They supported this, as well as the Community Development Board unanimously approved this. This is going to be really great, especially the idea that we can spend this money anywhere in the city rather than in segmented radiuses. Right now, the old ordinance says you can only spend it within 1 mile of where you collect it, 2 miles for a community park, 1 mile for the neighborhood park, and anywhere for a resource-based park or a special facility. So you can see that limits, matter of fact, right now, we have $4 million that we could spend for land. We just can't find land that meets those parameters right now in the city. We're looking, and I hope you all look, I think I mentioned that last time, continue to look for vacant land or land that you think might be a good recreation resource for us. So that's basically, in essence, a summary of what the fee will do.
I think the important thing to keep in mind is that these are not new fees per se. The impact fees have always been there. We've just made them much simpler and easier to be paid out and so forth. And the fact that it can be spent anywhere in the city is a tremendous incentive to have it. The only question I have is that with the council passing these at the last council meeting, when is the effectivity for these to begin to be collected?
When will they begin? Actually, the date they will begin, I think, is September 1st, is when this new ordinance goes into effect.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't stop development right now. People continue to develop. They come to the building and permit department, and they can put a permit in, and as they go through that permit, if they can choose to either be under this current ordinance or they can choose to be under the new ordinance if they start their building permit prior to the enactment of the new one.
September 1st.
So that helps people. For example, sometimes we have large developers that are in here, and it takes 2 to 3 years to get a project up to where they're actually completed the project,
Right.
or even actually beginning to build. They have to go through so many hoops, so to speak, to get to that point. So we did not want to penalize the people when you give them an estimate 2 years before, and then now all of a sudden we've changed that. Because this will have a big impact for large-scale development where they're building like apartment complexes. As you saw the fee there, it was $2,024. Some of these apartment complexes now are 350, 400 units, even a 500 unit. So if you have a 500 unit, that means you'll be paying $1 million of impact fees to the city. So that's different from now, where it's based on the just value of land, which while land is very expensive, and we've compared those with a lot of different comparisons, generally it falls a little less than what the new fee will eventually charge.
Right. Are there any questions from any member of the advisory board?
So the money has to be spent park-related.
Has to be spent on buying new land and/or on buying new facilities. So it can be used for other, we still have a component that we need to keep our parkland and continue to buy parkland. So there is a component that we can use that for parkland too.
It's for new residents, right?
I'm sorry?
New residents?
Yes, new residents.
And you've
Usually,
removed,
usually developers are the ones that come in and build development complexes, or gone are the days when we had a lot of vacant land to do that, you know?
Right.
A lot of single-family homes, if you remember Countryside, when it comes on, you had all the single-family homes and those developments that were going around. But, you know, we're in what we call a redevelopment mode, as you can imagine. And so it's gotten even more difficult to enforce the current ordinance that we have.
and you've also removed the exemption for the downtown
Yes.
development, so they'll now be paying impact fees.
That's correct.
Okay. Does anybody from the public have a question, want to make a comment on this particular item?
Does it apply to hotels?
Can you please approach the podium, please?
Sorry.
He's going to walk all this way.
Now, it's good exercise, isn't it?
All right.
State your name.
My name is Steve Harris. Does it apply to hotels, commercial establishments like that? I notice in our facilities on the beach, they're often used by folks.
They are, but this ordinance actually, there are no commercials, no requirement for commercial development, nor are there requirements for hotels.
Thank you.
Check it out. Thank you.
If there's no further questions or comments, we'll move on to the next agenda item. This item is to discuss the Parks and Recreation 10-year plan coordinated by Tool Design. And I think in particular, the concern that I've heard from residents, and I have the question myself, is how is that progressing? But most importantly, have they got to the point where they've begun to establish the dates and locations for community input on the 10-year plan for Parks and Recreation?
Yes, where we are now, the consultant's going to basically conduct a series of 3 community workshops in person and then 1 virtual, so that everybody can, a lot of people are into the virtual meetings. They're also going to have focus group meetings, and they'll have multiple groups of that. There'll be 10 people for each group. And then we'll have an online survey as well to go out to the public. We're also going to tie in with a grand opening event down at the park, and we will have a Parks and Rec tent there so that we can get people to also be able to fill out the surveys there while they come. Obviously, we need volunteers. We'd love to have Parks and Recreation Board members to man that tent for a little bit. That would certainly be a help in that regard. But to answer your specific questions, we are hopeful to start some of these public meetings. They've already given us a date of June 6, 7, and 8 to begin some of the meetings. I don't have the actual, I think the locations, we're going to try to do one here at the main library. We're going to do one at the Long Center, or the Aging Well Center, and then one in the North Greenwood Recreation Aquatics Facility. Those will be the three public meetings we'll have. I don't have, again, the exact dates. We're trying to do these in June, simply because the 1st of June, because we've got the grand opening coming up, and that's a lot of work for everybody,
Right.
as well as the master plan. And so I wish I could give you more information, but you will be getting that information. We may even have, I've tried to approach the consultant with the idea of maybe having a public meeting here at your next meeting, to actually have them present at that meeting. It could be a public meeting too, where people could come as well. So I'm trying to add that in as a fourth public meeting at one of your regular meetings, if that is fine with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions from any board member? Anyone from the public have a question on this particular item?
I do.
Can you please approach the podium? Just state your name. Yeah, right there.
Okay. Yes, hi, Jason Mastropietro. A couple questions. One, where would we find out the information about when these are actually going to be, considering it's going to happen in June? I understand your next meeting is in July, and so I'm very interested in attending those public meetings. Where would I find out where they are? I know it's not scheduled now, I don't, and so, but where would I be able to find out when it is?
Well, hopefully they will be, we'll know the dates and the times within the next week, and we will
Okay.
then post them online at the myclearwater.com.
Okay,
And if you go to myclearwater.com, it'll probably be, we'll try to make it on one of the header pages so that it'll be
Okay.
very easy to find, because this is an important thing for the entire city. And you just click there and it'll have all the information there about the public meetings and how you can get engaged.
okay, and then I had one other question. At the very beginning, you said there would be something at the park. Which park were you referring to? Just to make sure I don't make a mistake with
I
that.
apologize, Coachman Park.
Coachman Park, very good.
An opening of Coachman
Yes.
Park, and those, basically, that's June 28th to July 4th. We have something planned every day down there, and we are going to have a tent, which will basically be there. We may even take one of the shelters down there and set up basically displays so that you can learn more about the community in general. Some of the other city departments might be down there as well, but that's where it will be, in the park. I'm not sure exactly where in the park, because it's only 23 acres, so
Right.
we haven't figured that one out.
And how would one, if possible, be able to get involved in a focus group?
I would say, again, I don't have those details yet,
Yes.
but if you give me your name and fill out that card there,
Okay.
we can certainly, I will give it to the coordinator of the master plan.
Yes.
And we can certainly contact you there, okay?
Okay, thank you. Where do I get a card?
This yellow one here, just fill it out and just give it to me, this one.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the public? Now we will move on to the next item, which is to review and discuss the Parks and Recreation portion of the Clearwater Strategic Plan. This is an item I added to the agenda because I had received a copy of the strategic plan that was put together by a outside consulting firm. It's 40 pages long, and it addresses 17 departments within the city, and it basically has gone to the city manager for review and all the department heads as to whether it may or may not be included in proposals that those departments will make for the new budget and so forth. But I thought it would be interesting just to focus on the items that were mentioned for Parks and Recreation in this strategic plan. And one thing in particular caught my attention when I read it was a proposal for Parks and Recreation administrative offices to be relocated from the Mutual Services Building up to the old Countryside Library to make utilization of that library facility. But that did not take place, and I'll defer to Art to give us an update as to why that decision was made and maybe comment on a couple of the other items that are on the strategic plan that may or may not become part of the department proposals to the council for the budget process that we've just undertaken.
I think when this item or goal was put there, again, this was done you know, the timing of when you put these things in black and white, it's somewhat delayed, so to speak. So these were done actually with other management that were previous to our current management.
Yep.
To Ms. Poirier and some of the other management. And at that time, there was a push to basically put new employees that had come onto the city into the MSB building, that's Municipal Service Building. And so they needed room and space for that. Well, Parks and Rec, we're just willing to go anywhere. We, like I've said before, we'll take whatever you got. We've been in fish houses, we've been in bars, we've been in just about anything to put on recreation. We're at the Armory still. We're in a service building right now with our parks people. But the issue was we were willing to volunteer to say, we'll go to the Countryside Library. Unfortunately, and it was a good plan to do that, but unfortunately after we got the cost to renovate it and to bring it back up to where the public could come into the facilities and use the facilities, it was just too costly and we did not have the money for that. So we backed away. We have new administration now. As you know, the council is focused on the new city hall, and so plans are moving forward with that. So we're right where we are, and hopefully we'll stay there until someone tells us to move.
Right. One other item on the strategic plan that I think is inactively being undertaken is the staffing required, the additional staffing required by Parks and Recreation as we inaugurate the new Coachman Park, Imagine Clearwater area and places like that, that staff will in fact be in place in plenty of time to provide the support and services that the city will need.
That is one of the goals. The council has approved the budgeting for staffing. We're hopeful that it is enough. We are in the process now of hiring the key individuals to do that. We have 2 months to put on the staff. Obviously, a lot of them are maintenance staff, for example, custodians, groundskeepers, technicians, those types of things. And without a park or without grass or without being open, we didn't want to waste the taxpayers' money.
Right.
So we're waiting to the very kind of end, so we'll start putting all these people on. They'll be in place hopefully before June 1st. That gives us at least those 3 or 4 weeks before the park actually opens to do all of our training.
Right.
So that is that goal. But we're going to be ready.
Excellent. Any questions from board members? Yeah.
How's the process going for finding a parks director?
I'm sorry?
The new director are you getting a lot of applicants?
Oh, for the new director.
Yes.
Yes, well, there is a process they're looking right now, going out and getting some applications for the director, and so yes.
Do you have a potential date? No?
We don't know right now,
Okay.
okay? I wish we could, but you need somebody else, Look, if I get another director, they're going to tell me to come to these meetings anyways, okay?
Right.
And I would miss that. I'd miss you all.
Absolutely.
So, regardless, but hopefully it's going to be, I think, rather quickly because, they're trying to. We have a lot of positions in the city. The city manager has a large task, not only just running the city on a day-to-day basis, but filling many of the primary positions here. There are several directorships that she needs to fill and is doing that, by the way, so I don't steal any of her thunder. She makes those announcements. But yes, so Parks and Rec director will be filled, I would say, rather soon.
And those candidates include internal candidates that may be interested in applying for the position as well?
That's true.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions? Anyone from the public would like to ask a question or make a comment on this agenda item? If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Discuss the all-accessible swings on city playgrounds, and I'm uncertain who may have had this item added to the agenda and will speak to it, but it certainly was not me.
That may have been me.
Oh.
Don't remember.
Somebody made a comment on a Facebook post, I guess, is that in reference to what I commented? That there was a complaint that, the new Del Oro Park didn't have maybe, a handicap swings or something? Wasn't ADA
The new
accessible
Del
or
Oro
something?
Park, we actually did have one, but I think the concern was by this citizen that we did not provide additional accessibility for their child to actually get to the other playground pieces. In other words, when you do those parks, the one that we do have, of course, is at the Long Center. That's a limitless park. If you've ever been there, you go into that park and literally a wheelchair can actually wheel themselves up onto the platforms, enjoy the play, and there are swings there as well. So that's more in tune for what I think she was saying. But she was also saying, here you got a new park and you didn't provide for those types, that access to that piece of playground. We are looking at that so that we can provide access at least to the main play pieces there.
Okay. I was just passing on that comment, but is there some type of a chart? You know, I guess some states have, like state parks, they have a chart that shows facilities and you have check marks, you know, you have swimming at this park, or you have maybe wheelchair accessible playground equipment at this park. Do you have some kind of a chart available?
Well, we certainly have that. We have that on our website, I think. If you go there, and also the magazine, it also lists the different things that you can go to
Clearwater
and
magazine,
have
yeah.
So
and enjoy.
maybe, is there a chart that lists those parks that has wheelchair accessible
I don't think
things?
it does, but that's not a bad idea for us to look into.
So that
Yeah.
you can recommend which parks has that. So,
Absolutely. It's the same issue we have with the wheelchair accessibility on Clearwater Beach,
Exactly.
where so many people, we do have some wheelchairs that can be used there. Actually, we have motorized wheelchairs that are being used now. We did put in some mats at 3 locations there. They can't go all the way to the water because the turtles, we need to protect the turtles, and so they go so far out. We were permitted to go about 100 feet out with a tee, but at least it gets people out into the sand, so that's nice.
Does anybody from the public want to comment on this agenda item before we move on? The next item is to review the April 4th, 2023 Parks and Recreation Project Update Report, which we all have a copy of that, which we can go through.
Yes, you all have a copy of our updates, and I'm not going to go through them all. Matter of fact, many of them have no updates on, but I would like to go over a couple of them. One, the Baycare Ballpark and the Carpenter Complex, the RFP for negotiation for the consultants to assist us in the upcoming negotiations has gone out. We have received, I think, 5 proposals, and we're evaluating those proposals. We want to bring this consultant on who knows about negotiating with Major League Baseball teams to assist and help us as we negotiate a new contract with the Phillies. The second one that I'd like to talk about is Del Oro Park Trailhead. Just to let you know, the park is open, so we're going to close it. You won't see this list anymore. The only thing left that I think we have to do, we're putting up a fence in between the 2 pickleball courts because there is some conflict there. So we're going to put up a fence there. It'll help people too, like myself, when I miss the ball and it rolls all the way down to the other end of the court. So this will be a big help. And the last project I want to share with you is the Sewell Road Park pickleball courts. We did share with you that we hope to have those completed. Unfortunately, the tennis court manufacturers did not get the paint there in time. However, the good news is the courts are now open. They are playable. We went and put some basically lines out there and the nets out there. It's just that we don't have the surface material. When the surface material comes in, we'll close it down for about a week, put the surface material in, and reopen the court. So the good news is those 3 courts are being used currently. As you can see, the capital project list is getting smaller, and that's because it's kind of a secular thing or a cyclically thing that you basically, a lot of them get done, and now we have a lot in design. So we do have some, we will be adding to this list in future meetings. We have things like the Long Center Pool, where there's major renovations going on with the natatorium there, as well as the air conditioning system. That'll be added. The Ream Wilson Trail Bridge over McMullen Booth, it needs to be painted, as well as a lot of structural issues there, a lot of rusting and those types of things. Cliff Stevens Fishing Dock replacement, we had to remove one. This is a replacement project, so it hopefully will get going real soon. That'll be on there. And the Moccasin Lake Boardwalk repairs. It has been a struggle to get our consultants and FDEP and everybody else to get basically the agreement or the permits needed to be able to repair that stream bed as well as the boardwalk that's there. And unfortunately, it hasn't been open for a long time. I know there's somebody from Moccasin, I think. What has it been, how many months?
24.
24.
Yeah.
So
Roughly 24.
I want everybody to know that we're focused on it, and we're basically at the mercy of the state right now. So, but hopefully that'll be done. The other issue that we have, one of them at Moccasin Lake Park, is that several years ago, they diverted the water in the park, which used to be a wetland all through it. It dispersed everywhere. Right now, it's been channelized. And when you channelize water like that, it just cuts right through the middle of the park. And what it's done, it has pushed the dirt, sand, debris, everything else into the lake. And so what's happening is that water will go to the lowest point. I mean, it's just going to go there. And so it is basically filling up the lake. So we're looking at that, I want you to know, and actually putting some resources, money toward hopefully addressing that problem that we know we have out there. Before long, we're just going to have no lake. So we are addressing. I didn't mean to get off topic, but I wanted to mention that. And the last one is Ross Norton Park. We have a new playground and play court installation will be going there. So you'll see those in your next board meeting. That's it.
Any questions from the board? Any comments from the public on this particular item?
Yes, Jason Master Pietro again. Just Mr. Cater, I want to say thank you. We understand about the timing and the different organizations that you have to work with, and we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
It's not too often a compliment comes your way, is it?
Oh. You got that recorded?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Off the record.
Put it in the minutes.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the director's report. Anything further to report to us, Art?
Well, the one thing was I was going to update you on the Parks and Recreation Director position, and I think I've already done that. So hopefully we will, I appreciate that though, because I want you all to be informed. And actually, whenever that decision is made, I will make sure that we email you and let you know, that information and any bios or anything about the new director that needs to be done. The second thing that I'd like to report is, of course, we've kind of talked around it, but the grand opening of the Coachman Park and the sound. I mean, this is a big deal for the city. We know what happened at Beach Walk, many years ago where Beach Walk went in, and now you can see what's happened to Clearwater Beach. I mean, some people may like it, some people may not. Listen, I was here when Sand Key was just sand and Australian pines. You could drive your car out there. You could have a big campfire out there. Kind of ages me. But anyway, so we tried to save Sand Key. We lost that battle. But be that as it may, my point is that we believe this is a catalyst for the downtown area of the city of Clearwater to bring it back to really what it used to be many years ago. So we're hopeful for that, but it's going to be a grand time. and certainly want you to be involved in that. It'll be 7 days. The focus, we basically went around Celebrate America, and we're going to celebrate Coachman on day 1. We're going to celebrate diversity and culture on day 2. On day 3, we're going to celebrate music. On day 4, we're going to celebrate the community. On day 5, we're going to celebrate Hispanic culture. And on 6, we're going to celebrate wellness. And on 7, we're going to celebrate America, and that'll be on the 4th of July. It will be the largest fireworks show that we in Clearwater have ever had, so you can't miss that. And then we'll have concerts in the Sound. That is the name of the amphitheater. I know that some don't like amphitheater because there's one over in Tampa, I think. So, but the Sound will be opened. We will have at least the first 2 nights. Those will be free concerts, so that anybody and everybody can go to those concerts. So it's going to be an exciting time. There'll be an awful lot going on, and just want y'all certainly to invite you to. If you just go to the website, again, what I shared with you is just go to the menu. It'll have a menu, and it says Visit Coachman Park. You go there, you can get all the information about Coachman Park. You can get maps. You can see, I mean, it's just great. Our Public Communications Department has just done a wonderful job of promoting it and putting all that information out. But that's my report.
Okay. I did have a couple of items I thought it'd be appropriate to bring up to yourself directly, in that we do get questions or queries from residents regarding issues affecting parks and recreation. And Art is always a great resource to go to for those responses. So I thought for the board's education as well as the public, I'd bring up a couple of those that he handled since our last meeting. One of them was a resident was wondering if the lawn bowling and shuffleboard courts were possibly up for sale by the city to be used for another fashion. And you were able to answer that one very promptly with a very good statement as to why that would not happen quickly, even if we wanted to do it. So perhaps you could repeat that.
Yeah, that is correct. We just, as far as the shuffleboard and lawn bowling club, and the property itself is a beautiful piece of property. It's on Stevenson's Creek, as we all know. And 20 years ago, I mean, that place, you couldn't find a parking lot, I mean, parking spot, lawn bowling, everything was going. They had large banquets. They had literally 300-400 members at that time in both of the clubs. However, since it has, basically, the membership has gone down. They're trying very, very hard to get new members there. And what we wanted to do was to basically look at that property, and just for sake, we call it the hub, to bring a place where people can go, the younger generation as well, to go and learn how to shuffleboard and lawn bowl, but also to do pickleball or to do volleyball or to do a lot of the other sports that are there to make it entertaining and all. And it is a large project. So for right now, again, we've changed management. So we're into new management. So we're looking now at capital budgets for the following years. And so that's the reason why it's been delayed a little bit while we haven't done anything. And the hope is to build like one building. Right now there's 2 buildings that are tin metal roof, if you've ever been there. It's nice during the rain. Have you had any rain lately? No. Please. To build one building, which would be like a community center, and everyone can go in there and enjoy that. So that's kind of where we are.
I think the other comment that was made was that even if a decision was made to sell that property, it could not be done without a referendum going to the citizens to approve, correct?
Right. A lot of these rumors get out. I think there was another one too about the Marymount Park, that somebody was going to take Marymount Park and use it for the air park. And
Right.
There's just I don't know where these things come from, and the way Stevenson Creek, and you are correct, it would have to go to referendum, and every one of you would have to vote to get rid of that piece of green space. Right. And traditionally, the citizens of Clearwater don't like to get rid of their open space.
Right. Very good. Another query we received was from someone representing the Moccasin Lake Nature Park, and that had to do with the possibility of opening up that park at 8 a.m. to allow walking, if you will, early, as well as a question on the staffing. The present staffing is 1 full-time and 2 part-time employees. And again, it is a bit of a resource problem, which you can comment upon if you like, but that's always what's going to come up with respect to understaffing and extending the hours of a park like that.
It is staffing and resources. Moccasin Lake is dear to my heart because I've been here for 43 years, which meant it was part of that, building that. At one point, we had almost 4 full-time people at the park. The issue with that has been, and I brought it before you, that in 2008, 2009, when there was a downturn in the economy that was so bad it hit everybody, it also hit all cities, counties, governments, and the Parks and Recreation Department at that time lost about 55 to 60 employees, full-time employees. And we did drastic things to get there. One, unfortunately, is we reduced our staffing at the nature park. We cut lights off at tennis courts. We locked up restrooms at our parks, outdoor parks. Those to me are drastic. We changed all of our schedules for mowing grass. If it was mowed once a week, it then got mowed twice a week. If it was twice a week, it got mowed once a month. And once a month, it was even worse. So, and some of those things, believe it or not, they have not come back. And one of them, unfortunately, is Moccasin Lake. I would love to be able to increase the staffing level there. I think there's a possibility simply because the park has had some major renovation over the years. And certainly now, if you've not been out there, it's really because of the volunteers, many of these people that are right here that make that park go. Without that, one person, as you know, could never be able to do the things that are taken care of out there. So we have a wonderful volunteer corps and a group that's out there that really care and love that park, as I do. So that would be one of my goals, hopefully moving forward, that we can do something to enhance that. And as far as opening it at 8 a.m., we would have to look at, see whether there's any resources from any other rec center or some other place to be able to come there and open it. Or we could maybe work something out with a group. There are the Friends of Moccasin Lake that are there, that we might be able to do something with them if it's a group of people to be able to give them access, as long as we found someone that we could trust and that we could make an agreement with. So there are some possibilities.
Very good. If I'm not mistaken as well, I believe that they had an Earth Day there on the 22nd of April that was very well attended. I think I saw some emails from some people that Friends of Moccasin Lake Nature Park thought it was quite well attended and a good event for the day. And with respect to budgeting for resources of either people and or facilities, it's all part of the budgeting process which the city has just begun to undertake. And Parks and Recreation, which is near and dear to all of our hearts, is one among many that will be putting their request in, and they all have to be discussed and brokered within the departments of the city. Then they go to the city council, and again they will be discussed and brokered as to what limited resources the city has to finance these things that everybody would like to have. I think that's all I had with respect to questions that we could publicize. There was one other one. There was a resident that suggested the consideration of a bocce ball court where the shuffleboard and the lawn bowling area is presently. There's one on the beach right now, I think, they said. But they asked us to consider putting one out there. And I suggested that might be an item that when they have the community input for developing the Parks and Recreation 10-year plan, they might want to consider proposing that. However, I did remind her that pickleball is a tremendous, enthusiastic new thing presently, and that group is a great, well-enthusiastic and organized group pushing for pickleball to be increased amongst the city. So, but that's all I had. Does anybody from the board have anything that they want to comment?
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking too much. My mind keeps going back to the impact fees. Where will they be looking to buy property from? The county or private homeowners, where are they looking to buy property from?
Property has to be bought in the city limits of Clearwater. Or a park.
For a park, yes.
Yes, that's why this master plan will be important. The master plan might show that there's a lack of any neighborhood park or green space in a certain quadrant of the city or section of the city.
Right.
So the focus would be, in that case, to try to find some land in that area. So it would only be in the city of Clearwater that we purchase land.
Right, because I did a sort, when I was visiting all the parks, I did a sort to find out what zip codes didn't have parks.
Right.
So you almost have to buy from private individuals or from the county. Like,
That is correct. We are buying, that's what is happening. The latest park that we bought, we purchased parkland next to the Eddie C. Moore complex, just north of there. There was about an acre and a half. We purchased that because it was adjacent to our park, so we wanted to expand that. That makes sense. What we don't want to do is start buying, we've talked about this on the board, these little vest pocket parks, little teeny ones that just, you have to go and maintain them, and it's just difficult to do, and you have too many of them. We already have, as you know, and you've shared, and it's online, and wonderful pictures that you have of all of our parks, even the little teeny bitty ones we have. So, yeah, we would, like I said, it comes from the private developer. The other one we got was Del Oro Park. Those properties were single-family homes that we purchased, or the city purchased, not, basically, and we put together expanded Del Oro Park so that we have the bike trail area there.
are you going to be putting out a call for individuals to sell properties? I mean, how is this going to happen? Are
You mean when we find them?
Yes, how are you going to, like,
When people put for sale signs out front, no.
okay, got
That's
it.
one way we do it. I'll take pictures of it and I'll bring it back to our real estate agent. We have a real estate person within the city, works for the engineering department. They have to deal with a lot of right-of-ways and easements and those types of things. So he is very knowledgeable about real estate, and so that's how, or somebody comes to us. We have real estate people that will call us and say, hey, we've got some property here, or they want to sell it to make it a park. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Because some of those properties around that lake near the shuffleboard and the lawn bowling club,
Yes.
those homes, I always thought if you could buy some of those homes around that lake, that would make nice park
You're
property.
talking about Ross North?
Down, that little lake around the shuffleboard. And
Oh, around the shuffle, okay, around there.
lawn
That's,
bowling.
Stevenson's Creek,
Some of
yeah.
those homes, that would make nice park property. And the other thing I wanted to say is the Kings Highway Rec Center, which really isn't a rec center, would that impact fee, could you use that to develop a new rec center in that area? Even though the city already owns that land, could you maybe expand a rec center in that property?
We could,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
That could be done.
That's it for my questions.
Kings Highway used to be a rec center. It took the cut just like 2008. We took Wood Valley, Kings Highway, both of those now are being operated, one by Arts for,
Arts for Life.
yeah, Arts
I've
for
lived
Life,
next to
and
it
the
for
other group
37
is
years.
Boys
yeah.
and Girls Club. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but we could do that, yes.
yeah, okay.
And I think you've asked us also to be on the lookout for property that might be available, but
If you find a for sale sign, take a picture of it and send it to me. You got my email,
Excellent.
art.cater@myclearwater.com. We'll go. We look everywhere. We're even looking at one now on Island Estates, believe it or not. We do have one little piece of property. It's Sunset Sam Playground, and it's just a teeny little lot there. And it's not in the best place for people to get to. There's no parking there.
There isn't. I love that park. There's no.
I know you do. It's your favorite park, but that's why you love it, because nobody's there.
all right. Moving on to the last item on the agenda is board members to be heard on any topic, and I'll start on my left with Martin Armstrong to lead off. I'd like to defer and go last. as I can also adjourn the meeting when I finish as well.
Just wanted to follow up on what you're talking about, trying to find park space. There's, like you said, there's a lot of redevelopment going on, a lot of mobile home parks are being converted to apartment complexes and stuff. Or when they go in for a development like that, do they have to include a park as part of their development plan?
No, they do not.
Because in Pasco County, you've got to put a park in any kind of development you have. I think they have a minimum, like a 1 acre size of a park within a development, and I would think that that would be a great way to encourage park development and say, you're going to redevelop this, 500 unit area, there should be a park there, So,
Well, there used to be a policy, that's how, again, in Countryside, when it came in, they had to give us 10% of their land.
right.
That was a requirement, that was a policy. So any of those, like that Valencia Park, that was the very first one that had to give us 10% of their land. And if you've ever been there, it's just a little teeny park there. There's a couple of tennis courts, a playground, and then a long walkway all the way down. That was the first park that was given to us that way. But it's a great idea. I think the issue is that what happens is that we ended up having a lot of tiny pieces of property. If you go into that area I was just talking about, Valencia Park, right across the street's Montclair Park, because guess what? They developed Montclair, so they gave some land there, and then just behind it was another development, and it's still undeveloped. It's a long piece of property. So all of a sudden, you say to yourself, well, that may not be such a good deal, especially if we have to maintain it.
Right.
I like Pasco, if Pasco says, y'all maintain it too, build it and maintain it.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Kelly, anything further?
I think I said it all.
Mark? Lisa?
I'm good.
One additional comment on Pasco County. I think I read an article just this past week where they've proposed to the council to increase the impact fees to $8,500, 4 times what they are now, I think. And they got turned down for that very reason. It's just too much at one time, if you will. A couple of things I wanted to make note of, if I could, is the Parks and Recreation Department administers the rec centers that I go to and other people go to and so forth. But in addition to that, they always get involved in activities on behalf of the community. And a couple of those things that did come up since our last meeting was a cleanup at Lake Bellevue on March the 11th, the cleanup at Courtney Campbell Causeway on the 18th of March, and then in conjunction with Easter Sunday, the Morningside Recreation Center had an aquatic egg hunt. Countryside Rec Center had an egg hunt for the children and family members. And Clearwater Beach had a scavenger hunt on the 8th of April. So what I would like to do is give a shout out and thanks again to the Parks and Recreation employees that not only do the jobs that they are paid to do each day, but they also host and administer these community events for us. And I have nothing further beyond that. Oh, yes.
I'm Ellen O'Donnell. I have a couple of questions about a couple of things that you have brought up. This hub thing you're talking about where shuffleboard and lawn bowling is, what's the anticipated time frame to be doing something with those facilities?
Right now, we do not have any funding, okay? So it's an idea in my head and others that have gone around, so we've shared with it. So right now, there's not any approved funding. Hopefully, we get a funding that basically will allow us to begin the plans and begin, planning. I can't say exactly when it's going to begin. I would hope maybe in a year, but right now, it's not in the funding for that.
Okay, how long have you been thinking about doing that at that
Since the
area?
last director was here, which was a year ago. I think it came up about a year ago.
Okay, and would the shuffleboard and lawn bowling clubs still be there? I mean, could people still shuffleboard and lawn bowl there?
I think they can. I'm not sure what the final development will be. It'll be based on the residents of Clearwater when they decide, and as we have meetings with basically the users of the facility as well as the residents of the community to find out what they want.
Okay, so you will be letting those clubs know and be
Oh,
involved in
absolutely.
the...
We'll work hand in glove with those clubs,
Okay.
the clubs, absolutely.
Okay, because I'm the president of the Lawn Bowling Club, and this is the first I've heard of this, so I am somewhat concerned. Our 100th anniversary is February of next year. We have half a dozen tournaments planned. We've been asked to host a regional tournament. We've had national tournaments. The Lawn Bowling Club is one heck of an asset for this city. Nowhere in Florida are you going to find a place like that. Every city has palm trees and golf courses. Clearwater has world-class beaches and a world-class lawn bowling facility. We have 14 rinks. We have 8 on another bowling green. The club now is spending a lot of time and money to get those for night bowling. So we're putting a lot into that club. And we've got a lot going on up there, and it's an asset that I would hate to get paved over for something else. So, if we could be involved in this process, we would
Certainly be.
really,
Who is your contact right now?
that would be me.
Who do you contact with the city?
Michelle Leach,
Michelle Leach, okay.
and I think Carla
Carla,
a
okay.
little bit, but mostly with Michelle.
Yeah, well, they should be, we will certainly communicate with you anything that's done out there, okay? Well in advance of doing, the idea, the intent is to keep both Shuffleboard Club and Lawn Bowling Club there, not to disintegrate them. However, it may be, some of the facilities may be taken down because we know that they have not been used in recent years because of the decline in the club membership. And I know that those are needed for large tournaments, but when they're not used on a regular basis, perhaps something else can go on the property that can be used, to meet the community needs.
Okay, well, we are using both bowling greens on a regular basis, and we can keep you updated. We'd love to have all of you come bowl with us and just check everything out. I was going to ask you one other thing, but it has slipped my mind. Okay.
Again, just email me. I'd be happy to respond.
Okay. Oh, okay. I wanted to ask you, when is our facility use agreement going to be done? Because hearing about this hub thing has me concerned. And the last couple of years, the agreement has run out like December 30th, or just whenever it ran out, we were not getting the updated agreement until like that day or the day before. And we even had to close the club a few days because we had no facility use agreement, and we couldn't use the club because if somebody got hurt, we wouldn't have any insurance. So last year it was done like December 31st. Is there some way that could be accelerated so that like maybe in September or by October 1st, we know if we can still use that facility, because all our tournaments are like January, February, March.
I can certainly look into that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Right. If there's nothing further, this meeting is adjourned.